Now, many Eastern Cape children still have to cross rivers or walk long distances to get to school. The South African Human Rights Commission has visited some of these places to find out why children continue to face these hardships. Eileen Carter, the Commissioner's head in the Eastern Cape, joins us now for more details on their inspection. Good afternoon, Dr. Eileen, and thank you very much for your time. We understand that you've been conducting these inspections in the Eastern Cape villages, and that's particularly following the disturbing reports on the dangers that children are faced with when attempting or seeking to access education. What were you confronted with when you arrived in those villages?
Good afternoon, Fundobi, and good afternoon to the viewers. I think you have outlined it. It is dangerous conditions children are faced with in their attempts to access education. We recently conducted an inspection in close by the Hala Senior Secondary School as well as Nkunjani Primary School in the Enoch Mgijima local municipality, where we found that close to about 60 learners every day have to cross a very strong river in order to access basic education. We also met with the community, with the parents. And they shared a lot of information with us and some real touching information where learners lose their uniforms, where learners have to spend the full school day in soiled and wet uniforms because they simply cannot access the school without having to cross the river.
Was there ever an alternative? Because in other stories that we've done pertaining to when we had that rickety bridge we were talking about, we had the government coming out to say, in fact, what had happened was there was a bridge, it just got flooded. In this instance, was there ever an alternative, or children have always had to cross the river?
I think there's a few factors that are contributing to these challenges, and one of it is the school rationalization project, where learners, the schools on the other side of the river have now closed. So this has contributed to this challenge, where the learners now have to access the school on the adjacent side of the river. So there's also been an attempt to make use of scholar transport to take the learners to the schools. However, the community has informed us that the scholar transport would drop the learners at the riverbanks because their cars cannot simply just drive through the river. And also, the scholar transport does not want to drive the extra kilometers, 6, 7, 8 kilometers, to the school because they are unable to claim for the kilometers officially. So these are definitely contributing factors to the challenges.
My goodness, Doctor. So you have the scholar transport actually being the ones. It's not a situation where these young children or their parents are opting to save money and deciding that as opposed to you driving to school, we'd rather take this thoroughfare and have you passing through the river. You've got a scholar transport that has actually a contract with government that drops off the children at the river.
Well, Fundobi, these are allegations that we are definitely putting to the stakeholders herein. And the stakeholders is not only the Department of Education. The stakeholders include the local municipalities, because there is also a disjuncture in terms of what we would refer to as human rights budgeting. Are we indeed looking at the rights of children when we do our IDP budgeting? Are we looking at the best interests of children when we are doing our planning? So it does seem like a bigger issue here. These are currently allegations that the parents have put to us. And one of the allegations that they also included is that the Department of Education actually requested parents that during the rainy season, the learners need to find alternative accommodation at the correct side of the river. So that is quite concerning for us, and that is the reason we are currently looking into this matter.
So parents must be separated from their children. And nobody's thinking about the psychological well-being of these children, that if it's rainy season, go and live with a neighbor. I mean, it's honestly very disturbing because one could say, never mind, like if we had to talk about the dangers of the river that you speak of, even if it was a shallow river with not so much a very strong current, but the fact that a child has to take off their school shoes, get to school wet, I mean, the dignity of that child, they dry up for the rest of the day. And such is okay
Absolutely.
for government.
And the Constitution is very clear on that. The best interest of the child principle is paramount in all matters concerning that child. So we cannot just throw our arms up in the air and say, well, this is someone else's responsibility. Access to education, basic education, is an immediately enforceable right. So we need to get the stakeholders buy-in to address this. Parents are washing school uniforms every evening during the rainy season, just to enable their kids to go to school the next day. We are really sitting with a challenge here, and we need all hands on deck to address it appropriately.
No, it's very, very honestly disturbing. And then have you engaged government, or are you yet to actually engage them armed with all the evidence now, at least some of the allegations that have been brought to you?
Absolutely. We are now in the process of formally engaging with them, like I've indicated. The allegations include several levels and several spheres of government, and we need to look at the responsible entities. The one municipality would say that it does not fall within their demarcation because it's this side of the river. However, the other one would say, no, but this is not our problem because the children come from the other side of the river. So we need to get to the bottom of it. We need all hands on deck. And the fact remains that access to education is a constitutionally guaranteed right. And we need to ensure we have a limited time where we can change and address the lives of these kids. And we need to ensure that we act with urgency. We can't leave it for the next financial year and for the next government and for the next entity to address. We are the responsible ones, and we hope to move quickly on this matter.
No.